Welcome back. Jordy Culotta Show, Tuesday edition, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Shea Dixon, swagged out. CBS pullover.
I should have saved the unzip for...
You should have done like a jersey reveal, dude.
You should have, bro. But then he opens up to the Tyrann Mathieu Super Bowl edition
Emily
T-shirt.
got me this. Yep. Don't worry about the L.
Yeah, bro. I mean, what do you...
Like I said, I can't play every
position. As a
position.
first ballot, man.
You know, I love that moment when him and Brady were getting after it.
Yes.
The Badger versus the Lion.
Yes.
You know, just checking to see where he was at.
Absolutely. And the Lion coming in the postgame apologizing.
Things got a little heated.
I mean,
Things
like
got a little
Brady
heated.
coming back and apologizing, the whole time, man. That was fantastic. You're on top of this stuff on Major Burns. And first off, give us a little background on Burns. I was telling him he's a Baton Rouge native, Madison Prep kid, but he was coming up and he was committed to LSU for a minute, about almost a year, huh?
Yeah. You do good on background.
Well, I'll read your work.
Madison Prep kid. And he would been committed, if you take it back, I guess, his junior year, he'd been committed to A&M. LSU offered him, he decommitted. Then that summer, ahead of his senior year, he committed to LSU, stayed committed all the way until December, and then right before signing day, they kind of had a parting of ways, on LSU's end. LSU was trying to make room for some guys. He, within a week, went to Georgia, enrolled early, so that was a good landing spot for him. But if you'll remember, that was when LSU missed on, Raheem Jarrett and Jermaine Burton, two receivers flipped on him on signing day. They missed on a couple of other big targets, and suddenly they had a bunch of spots. Yeah. They signed Dwight McGlothern after, and then signed Darren Evans right before the season started out in Nichols. But Burns ended up going to Georgia, and now, not even a year later, a season later, he's going to enter the transfer portal, is what he said.
Mutual breakup?
With him in Georgia?
No, with us and LSU.
No, I think he probably wanted to be here on the first time around, and they kind of just ran tight on spots and tried to use those numbers on a different position or different guys. And ultimately, I think a lot of people are hoping that, a year later, that not right and a wrong, but that the two sides can kind of get back together, and that's where Burns wanted to be in the first place.
Kind of all makes sense, right, with the Scally available and the need at defensive back?
One scholarship available, and we're counting towards the 2021 class, so the kids who, Mason Smith and all them, the guys who are all early enrollees now and the kids who get here this summer. They signed a few safeties, Sage Ryan, Derek Davis, Matthew Langlois, but it's still a pretty big need position, so landing a guy like Burns, who, he reminds me a bunch of Jay Ward. Like, he could play corner. He's, 180 pounds, but if he gets into that 190 range, he'll be good. 6'2" kid, but plays a lot more physical than his size and probably could be a pretty good free safety for you. So he could play corner, could play nickel, but I think he's the type where you bring him in and you try to play him at safety. But one spot, we know that they've said they've wanted safeties. You've got a Baton Rouge kid now coming away from an SEC program. It would make perfect sense. We'll see what Major wants to do, but kind of going into it, when everybody heard that he was going into the transfer portal, I made a few texts, and it seemed like that's where things were trending, that he would enter his name if he knew that LSU would have a spot for him.
Wow, that would be a nice pickup for LSU after the process and would fill out the 25, right?
It would fill out the 25, and he was a top 150 player coming out of high school, top 10 or 15 safety. I can't remember exactly where he was ranked, but really good player. He played some last year, played a little star for Georgia. And they've got some guys coming back, but also had some DBs drafted. So just to get on the field as a freshman, he had some good film. I think that LSU is no doubt right now waiting for him to enter the portal so that they can then officially talk to him and try to see if they can't get it done.
What do you make of recruiting right now? Is things going to open up, or are these guys in this cycle going to be able to experience some on-campus stuff and some possible camps this offseason?
Finally, really? June 1, and now LSU, all the SEC schools are releasing their camp dates, so all of June will be big camps, but you'll have official visits in the summertime, into the fall, so it's going to be a wild, wild west stretch. Look, LSU has 12 or 13, maybe 13, I think around 12 commits right now, but that leaves you about half the spots in the class. I think we could see some shakeup within those 12 based upon how guys do in camp, how guys do in senior year, because for the first time in a long time, a year and a couple of months, they're actually going to be able to go see kids in person, work them out in person. And they've gone off of Zooms and watching not highlight tapes, but game film the past whole cycle and into this one. Now you can actually get a feel for especially in summer camps, working guys out in person, putting them through the ringer, match them up against other guys in one-on-one settings that you like and see how they respond. Summers are always such a big eval point for Coach O, but for every school. So I think we'll see a lot of recruiting classes by December, and by design will probably look different than they do right now.
Do you expect the bulk of this class to be in by early signing period?
Yeah, I think that's always now the new goal, that sign everybody early. And it just took, I think, a little bit of an adjustment period for kids to realize that they weren't losing out on some major thing if they didn't sign in December to February, because they've now allowed official visits in the spring and into the summer. So it's not like it used to be where, you can only do it in the fall. Well, I play football every week in the fall. I'm not going to go take an official visit. And then everyone did it in January. Now everyone can just official visit pretty much whenever you want. So there's no real reason to have to wait till January.
How many 5-stars do you think that 2022 class can get? We're at 3 right now.
Yeah, I think it'll stay there. This class is more top-heavy than we've seen in a while in Louisiana. Now, they could add other 5-stars. LSU certainly could to the commit list. Shamar Stewart, a defensive lineman, is a big name people have watched. Harold Perkins, a linebacker out of Houston, which is important to go back and get into Houston this year and next year. Houston's really deep, and A&M's doing a good job there, so you want to continue to maintain, not a pipeline, but a grip on a guy or two a year in Houston. But I would say in Louisiana it'll stick on 3. Matthews, Walker Howard, and Will Campbell. And I'm actually interested in, I think right now maybe it goes Walker, Campbell, and then Jacoby Matthews in the rankings, and they're all 5-star guys in the composite. I think that could shuffle into any order. I think all 3 of those guys make a real case for being the best player in the state.
1 ABC.
Why not?
Yeah.
Hey, good to. And when you bring up that commit list, all 3 of them say LSU next to it. So
yeah,
that's
they do. It seems like they're pretty locked.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like those 3 guys in particular are locked into their commitments.
Well, we joke with Lloyd all the time. Does Will Campbell sound like a kind of man who's going to go back on his word?
I don't think so. I'm not going to be the one to tell him either.
No. Yeah, I think all 3 of those guys. And people were surprised that Matthews committed because he had been trending out of state and had even thought about Arizona State after a visit there. But I think that playing at home, now being committed and seeing that his parents are for it, they want to be able to see him play. He's only 30 minutes down the road, and he can play safety or linebacker. Both those are going to be big needs for LSU in the next year or two. I think he's a guy that knows he can play early, so he'll stick.
Around the state, who's next? Who's on the radar? I mean, I know there's so many more big names out there in this state. I mean, this seems like this is a overflowing year of talent. I know we've talked about that, but now where does the focus shift if you're LSU after picking up 3 of the top players? Now that you got pretty much the majority of the top guys secured, where are they looking next?
Yeah, I'll tell you one guy we don't talk about a ton that I love out of Captain Shreve is Kendrick Law. He can play both sides of the ball. Probably one of the more athletic kids in the state this cycle, just kind of pound for pound. I think he would probably play wide receiver, but you could put him at running back and do some things with him. Dynamic speed, return game guy. He's a top 5 player. You're a big Shaz Preston fan. They've got a few receivers committed. They would take him in a heartbeat. I don't think he's in a rush to do anything. And then you look down and say they've got 2 running backs who are ranked as top 10, 15 running backs in the country, and Le'Veon Moss over at Estruma, and then Trevante Citizen at Lake Charles Prep. Both those guys are still uncommitted. Both have offers from LSU. There's kind of this waiting game being played where when June 1st hits and these kids can go everywhere they want, what happens? To out-of-state teams surge for them. So I think it was really important for LSU to get those top 3 done before everybody else could get, a hand on them, get them on campus, all those things. Now it's the battle for guys like Law, the 2 running backs, Shaz Preston. Try to find, I think summer will bring some new offers in Louisiana. They've got probably, I could count 5 guys, and there'll be more that if they didn't have summer camp coming up, they probably would have offered them. But now that they know they've got camp coming up, you sort of wait around, get them in person, do your evals. So we'll see some new offers go out. I'm excited for the summer. It'll be the first time in 2 years that we've had a summer camp and seen them be able to kind of go after some of those guys who, think about it, DJ Chark, a lot of kids over the years have earned their offer at summer camp and kind of burst onto the scene. So that'll be a fun stretch in June. Circle those dates.
It seems recruiting's been fantastic, but I do have to be that guy in the room. How do you keep up with pace with Alabama? It was probably one of the greatest recruiting classes last year. A lot of people are down on Saban during COVID. Oh, he doesn't know how to recruit via Zoom, all this. and then what happens? The greatest recruiting class ever. Even same with Ryan Day's lining up the world. And I mean, yeah, we're at 3, especially in the 2021 class, but it just seems we're so far away from what Ryan Day and Nick Saban did.
Right. I think they're not far from that. I mean, and if you finish with a top 5 class consistently, I think you're in a great spot. Yeah. And you do your evals, you get the guys that you think are going to make a difference for you. And for LSU, a lot of that, too, is finding guys that will stay. You know, it's not this play me now or I'm leaving mentality, and I think that's where Louisiana becomes important in recruiting in Texas, in the Houston area, and certainly into Mississippi and Georgia they've done really well with. So I think everyone's always chasing Bama, and I think that's a fine standard to be going after it. For LSU, obviously, you have to play them every year because they're in the West, but I don't think their overall team talent, when everything fleshes out, is like so much greater than LSU. Like, they had a bunch of draft picks this year in the first round. LSU did that a year ago. So I kind of like where they're at there. I think that the verdict, and you're right about Ryan Day, Ohio State recruits at a great level, but they're sort of out of sight, out of mind. They recruit, they're not coming down here and taking all your best players. They're recruiting the Midwest and guys up there who
stole one from them, though.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. Stole one from last year. And a guy like Corey Kiner, and obviously Joe Burrow. You'll take all you can get. But I think that Ohio State sort of out of sight, out of mind. I'm not all that impressed with Kirby Smart's recruiting efforts. And they have the number 1 class right now. They finished in the top 3 last year, and they consistently finish there. So where are the results? And we've seen them play this quarterback carousel, but then you just look at a year ago, Eric Gilbert, Max Johnson, Jay Ward, I could keep going down the list. I'm sure I'm missing guys. These were guys in their state, and Jay Ward, Max Johnson, those guys, they weren't even going after him hard, and those are starters here now. Obviously, Gilbert was being recruited by everyone, but Georgia's a really talent-rich state. I'm a bit confused why Kirby doesn't put more of that fence mentality around Georgia, because they're going to the West Coast to get guys. They're going up to New Jersey to get guys. And ultimately, I think all those guys are in Georgia for you. I mean, Georgia Tech signed more players out of Georgia than Georgia did last year. So, including, I'm talking top 20 players. I think Georgia had 4 and Tech had 8 or something like that. So, I think for Georgia, they've got to figure out a way to really buckle in because, I know who else I missed. B.J. Ojolari. His brother's on Georgia's roster, and he came here. And it was this thing of, well, they have when I would ask at the time, why isn't Georgia all over this kid? Well, they kind of are, but, you know, they kind of got a deep linebacker room or a D-end room, and he wants to play a little. That's a recruiting pitch. You get over that. Your brother's about to be a first-round pick or second-round pick out of this school, and you're gone. So, and those kids are out of Marietta. I mean, these are some powerhouse programs that Georgia should be putting their foot down on. I know it's tough. You know, it's like
dropped the ball on Gilbert twice when he was homesick.
Multiple times. So I don't know. I'm a bit confused, and I'm curious to see where Kirby's efforts go over time, because they do pop the big guys, and they'll have a top 3 class. They'll be really good, but we haven't seen them win the big ones yet. And I mean, certainly all of their big games really that they've been in, they've kind of come up snake eyes on, and recruiting's just been curious to me. I don't, when I watch Georgia play, I don't see 5 stars everywhere.
I don't either. You're right. And LSU dips in again and grabs probably their best talent, in Jake Johnson for next year.
And that's right, the number 1 tight end in the country for next year, Jake Johnson, on his way. And so I'm confused by Georgia. And look, they during that stretch, people had Georgia ranked higher. They had higher ranked recruiting classes. LSU kicked their teeth in twice.
Yeah, they did. You hear anything on Gilbert?
Nothing crazy new. A lot of people were asking, though, so I will clarify that Gilbert never enrolled anywhere else, so he's still an initial counter for LSU in the class he signed, which is 2020.
Did he lose his eligibility status?
No. I mean, I think he's eligible to play at LSU if he gets everything in order with academics and back in school. But a lot of people were asking, well, if LSU takes Major Burns and that's the final spot, is that Gilbert out? And because he actually never went anywhere else.
So he's still secure.
He's still secure. He's got his spot counted in 2020 until he were to sign with some other school, which he had never done.
What'd you make of the draft?
About what I thought. I mean, Marshall was medical. You know, I mean, we even on the Panthers phone call with him, you know, they were saying, I think Rule was saying, look, we're not worried about the injuries. I know you've had a long road. Like, come kill it. So clearly he had slid down a bit with medical stuff going back to high school. Man, I love the Chase pick. I just don't know if they're going to wish they took Sewell at some point, or and that's a debate for down the line. I don't know, but
that scar is fucking creepy, man. I mean, it is. That
With
scar
the advances in
is-
modern medicine, they're usually not that big.
I know.
I'll say this.
Like
And
in
look-
2021 to see a knee scar like that's eerie. I mean, how bad was it, bro?
Right, well,
They split his knee completely open.
and they're saying he's still going to be on track to come back. I just think that, and look, I can't wait. I hope it works out.
Me too.
Because
Yeah,
I love
I mean,
Jamar,
no doubt,
and
no
it's
doubt.
great for them. But when Joe was getting carted off the field last year,
It's
how
not
many
gonna make
people would have
sense.
looked up and said, "Let's take a receiver time." You know, so
You know what we really need
That's
is a
right.
receiver now.
That's right.
need more guys open down the field that he doesn't have time to throw to. But I don't know. They did address some O-line across the draft. I was just curious if they were going to go Sewell, and you saw the Lions. I think were 7 and 8 whenever Dan Campbell had Sewell come up. They were all over that.
Real quick before I get you out of here, you know what I've been paying attention to? Who looks like their roster is taking shape and looking legit is Woodlawn.
Oh yeah, huh?
I mean,
And you know,
the Jordan Matthews kid and the Ricky Collins kid,
right?
I mean,
And
both are SEC players,
people,
right?
I've gotten a lot of calls about Ricky Collins asking when is he going to shatter that sort of Power 5 glass ceiling, which I think will happen over the summer. He's been really good in camp stuff. Then we've got Estruma playing football
Yes.
again. Then Lehigh, or I guess Liberty,
Yes.
will have a football team next fall, and they've already got a running back that's been offered by LSU that owns half the state's track top times, I guess, in short distance, so like 60 and 100. But
How's that kid
we've
not
got
end up at
BR
U-High or Catholic High, huh?
and Le'Veon Moss is still at Estruma. I mean, he ain't not at Walker
Moss
or
is a
anywhere else yet.
Man, bro.
So yeah, would you have believed it? Woodlawn, Estruma, Lehigh,
I love it.
Liberty.
I
We're on
love
the
that.
come up out here,
I
Jordy.
love that, man. Good to see you, Shea D.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see y'all.
Swagging. Shoes.
I should have done the reveal on
You
that.
should have done the reveal.
That's okay.
But the jacket's tight. The shirt is an
Rockies.
ace. The shoes is a low key 5-star. Enjoy the scene, bro. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah, I'll be back next week.
Katie, Jack, Lizzie, Shay, Jordy, Culotta, we're signing off. Go Chevrolet drives us every single day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Get your food questions in for Chef Jean-Paul Bourgeois. He'll be here at 8:30 tomorrow morning answering your food questions.
And maybe a little Cinco de Mayo coming down the pipeline for tomorrow.
Chef,
so
tomorrow might be the day to be on the Jordy Culotta show. We might
Yeah,
have
yes.
Drinking in
Rita's
here at 8
before 8.
a.m.?
Yeah,
margaritas before 8.
Exactly. Jordy only likes one alcoholic beverage, and it's tequila shots all throughout the day.
Don't go tell them all the secrets. Thanks to Travis Jewett. Thanks to the man, Shea D. We also talked this morning to Hunt Palmer and Jim Nagy. Good stuff. Check out the podcast brought to you by RMB Builders. Have a good Tuesday. We're back with you tomorrow morning.